243 years ago, our founding fathers launched the American experiment by boldly declaring independence from King George III. In their Declaration of Independence, they listed a set of grievances which they had tried for the previous 10 years to work out with the king, but that diplomacy failed. Americans were soon under attack and eventually gained their independence. But the attack on American sovereignty continues. We'll discuss this in this episode of Analysis Behind the News, where we provide the perspective that you can use to help save American liberty and independence. President Abraham Lincoln was quoted as having said, "America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves." Now, while he didn't actually say that, the meaning of this, as well as what he did say in his 1838 speech, are congruent. If you were to look at every instance of when we have lost freedom, you'll see that it wasn't because we lost a military battle, a war, or that an invading force took over Washington, D.C., or any of our state houses for that matter. No, you'll see that in every instance, we've merely just given it away. So whether it was through our local, county, or state officials, or through Congress, the executive branch, or the judicial branch, we've willingly handed it over. And how did we do that? By allowing these to occur, by not pushing back. Now, what I mean by that is that the Constitution spells out the duties of each of the branches of the federal government. And the 10th Amendment then specifies that the states, the people, hold all of the other powers. But yet, when one branch has stepped beyond its limitations to work elsewhere, it takes away power from others, either from other branches or from the states, the people. A usurpation, if you will. If this goes unchallenged, then precedent is established and it gets harder and harder to restore the duties to the rightful owner. And because Americans typically do not understand this, they don't make it a priority to keep their elected officials accountable, thus making it easier for these usurpations to occur. And this is why all eyes point to the Supreme Court when it issues its opinions, like it has done in the last couple of weeks. Americans think that Supreme Court rulings are the law of the land, but they're not. It's an opinion that binds the plaintiff and the defendant of the specific case. The Constitution places all of the duties of lawmaking within Congress. Now here's a quiz. If all lawmaking duties are reserved for Congress, then how much is left over for the Supreme Court? Or perhaps for the President of the United States? Right, none. So what America has experienced in its 243-year history is a general shift of powers away from the people and over to government. Government at all levels. We have not adequately challenged these usurpations, leaving a vacuum so government fills that space. Now, does that mean taking up arms to push back like our founding fathers? No, absolutely not. They exhausted all diplomatic efforts first before doing so. And the proper pushback is for the original owner of the duty or power to reclaim it. So, how does one do that nowadays? By informing through education the original owner. For instance, if Congress were to pass a law banning all firearms, the proper response would be for state legislatures to pass a resolution informing Congress that they are outside of their constitutional duties and that any and all efforts to ban or confiscate firearms within the state are null and void, and that law enforcement and all state officials would not cooperate with any federal force or agency, and that if they would, they'd be arrested if they set foot within the state to enforce the unconstitutional law. States would ignore it. And this is something that could happen within a short amount of time without getting approval from anyone or anything else. These are sovereign states exerting their sovereign muscle, as seen in Article 6 of the Constitution. This has happened before. Let's take another example. If the state legislature were to ban firearms, then county, town, village, or city officials can push back through a similar resolution, removing the enforcement arm of the state legislation. This has happened and is now happening across the country in various states. The 10th Amendment Center follows these happenings very closely and has documented that this happens hundreds of times throughout the legislative year. Now, we could certainly spend the next several hours describing the forces that have shaped America into the mess it's currently in, including the move to replace God with the state, to falsely re-educate Americans that the USA is a democracy and not a republic, to increase government responsibility at all levels by taking away citizen responsibility, to delegating American sovereignty to unaccountable bureaucracies to ensnare us into a North American Union, much like the European Union, to the grandiose plan of creating world government through the formation of a new world order. Instead, let us focus on the solution of educating key individuals that will provide that pushback so we can stay a free and independent citizenry at all levels. And this is what the John Birch Society is all about. This is what we do. If you cherish American liberty and independence, apply for membership in our organization today. Go to jbs.org/join for your options. Now let's ask one more additional favor from you. Please subscribe and like and share this video with others. We hope you have a fantastic holiday and may God bless the USA.